All right. Hey, Facebook Live. It is another day. It's awesome to see you. Oh my gosh. We have the who's who of TEDx Wilmington right off the bat. Ronnie, good to see you. Hope you had a great, safe return. Sarah, hope you had a nice return back locally to your place. But man, what an honor to see the both of you on here. Hey, I am really excited because we're learning, and certainly a big learning lesson for all of us would have to be TEDx Wilmington last week. It is just an honor and privilege to be able to serve. And part of the serving involves meeting unbelievable people who happen, in Sarah's case, to live right down the street from me. And in Ronnie's case, and in the case of many of our speakers who live on the other side of the country, or maybe even on the other side of the world. So, our little theme today directly impacts one of the lessons that I learned through reflection and through asking myself and going through the discipline that I'm trying to gain and stick to, which is asking self-reflection questions, so that at the end of the day, I ask myself, hey, what went what right? I ask myself what didn't go right, and I ask myself what could have been better. Even if something went right, maybe it could go better, and if something went wrong, it could definitely go better. And I've realized something, and it actually stems from the very next day after our TEDx event, when I was actually at table with one of our speakers. And actually, I'm at the table there, and I'm just not present in the moment. And I didn't do a good enough job of using some of the keys that I had available to me. Now, what keys am I talking about? Well, if you read the description, you know that questions are actually keys. They are actually strategic weapons, not to destroy other people and not to combat other people, but they are weapons that you can use to build, to construct things. So maybe I should call them tools, but I called them weapons, which is maybe there's a way to spin that, but I'm just going to call them tools to be able to build all kinds of benefits for other people. Now, this is not anything new for me, because my mama told me 20 years ago, you know, Nathan, you're a good guy, and if you would just ask other people more questions, you'd be even more interesting and likable. My mom is so sweet and nice about how she influences me. And you know what? Even though my mother was nice and sweet about that, it just didn't work, friends. It didn't take. It just didn't take. So it's fast forward 10 years later, fast forward another 10 years later, and I finally start studying my mentor's book, which is called Great Leaders Ask Great Questions. Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. And I start reflecting. I mean, this book came out, what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Well, I start ruminating on that, and I start thinking about the other day when I'm at the table with the gentleman who gave a brilliant TEDx Wilmington talk. And I only asked just a tiny handful of questions, and the caliber of the questions that I asked were not particularly high. They were kind of normal or ordinary questions. They were not original questions. They were kind of ordinary questions. And I gave a lot of statements instead of asking interesting questions. So what I'm saying is I left a lot on the table. I left a lot of potential relationship building. Now, we did build more of a relationship. I think it was probably a value add. I mean, I wasn't rude at the table. I did not start a food fight. I did not shoot spitballs at other people at the other tables, and I was not embarrassing anyone at the table. However, I should know this by now, that the table conversation is a great opportunity to be able to ask great questions. And when you ask great questions, my friend, it just opens you up to other people. It really opens you up into a sphere that you normally can't get into in business. you really can't get into the social equity space in business where you have social currency unless and until you become a person who is more focused on adding value to other people and not just saying that like I say all the time, oh, add value to other people. Well, a way that you can show that you value other people is by asking questions, something that I am still not doing well enough for my satisfaction. So take it from me, you're probably naturally more curious and interested in other people than I may be right now. Good for you. I just want to encourage you. And we're gonna unpack this a little bit here today. So it's really important to ask great questions. And when I wrote out my notes here for our little Facebook Live, I said, oh my gosh, because I saw something as I was writing out the word question. I got to the Q, I got to the U, I wrote out the E, had my little purple Sharpie, which is a little too stinky, so I kind of got high off the fumes. Maybe this led to the revelation a little bit. So the Q, the U, the E, the S, and then I wrote down the T, and I said, oh my gosh, and I put a little box around it because I'll let you read it right there. What does that say? It's a quest. Now, isn't that a cool way to reframe it? Now, so if you are a very self-absorbed person like I am, okay, and people are saying, why am I learning leadership lessons from this guy? Well, one thing that I try to do, and one thing that I learned from my friend John Maxwell, is when you're open and you own up on your own mistakes and your own screw-ups, then other people are actually going to probably be attracted to that. So I try to own up to my screw-ups because I make a lot of screw-ups. I mean, believe me, hey, if we could be, what kind of a profession is this where you can publicly speak, and the more you tell everybody else about your screw-ups, the more they love you, as long as you have a fancy bio? What the heck? Well, it seems to work because people, I look at the data. The more I talk about juicy, self-depreciating stories like this, and the numbers start going up. So anyway, so the point is, questions are a quest, okay? And I started going on a bunny trail, but those of you who are Generation Xers, who remember the Atari game, the video game, remember the Atari before we had fancy, we had like a joystick and you have one red button and you'd be doing that. Remember the Atari video game Gauntlet, which was the first, I think, Atari or Nintendo game where you could play simultaneously with 4 other people. It was like a quest, and there's a sound effect, and I found it online, and the wizard says, not the wizard, but the narrator says, use keys to open doors. Use keys to open doors. And then if you get beat up a little bit, then it says, warrior is about to die. And then if you get killed, it goes, blah, 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 and then you die and you turn into a poof of smoke. Well, questions are a quest. What are you going to be on a quest on? You're going to discover more about that person. You're going to find out what makes that person tick. If you are at the table with a TEDx alumni of any stripe, you can find out what they went through to prepare for their talk. You can find out what inspired their unique idea worth spreading. I mean, it's so great. I mean, you can get the backstory from all of these things. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna step off camera here for a moment because I have been really intrigued because I found out through my friend Ajit, who's the curator for TEDx Wilmington, about this book signing the other day, and I went and I'm reading this book by Dr. Pam Walker, who is an infectious disease physician, and actually that is very similar to other infectious disease physicians I know, just because of some connections that I have. And this is just a fascinating book because it's about a gentleman of Indian, not American Indian or First Nations, but Indian, who grew up in Nairobi and went into infectious disease and succeeded through a lot of hard work. And it was just really Great. So I am filled, unusually, this is such an exceptional book that I am filled with all kinds of questions. And I've only been about 50 pages into this 400-page book. It's absolutely incredible. And for those of you that are local, there's going to be actually a reading later this month, I think at the Delaware Center for Medicine, or I'm getting it wrong. But anyway, I am very, very intrigued. Now, questions, if I have the opportunity to hang out with Dr. Panwalker at some point in the future, you're going to believe I'm going to come with my questions. And questions have been, the art of asking questions is something that I have learned from my mentor for the last several years. So I also, before I jump into a little bit of the teaching here that I'm summarizing for you, I want to throw in something that I just heard on a recorded mentoring call through John Maxwell's CEO of all of his different enterprises. And my friend Mark, who is the CEO, he said on this call that asking questions is really a discipline. And that's when it hit me. Said, yeah, okay, that's great. I'm really happy that he says that it's a discipline, because I thought that there was something wrong with me for being, maybe there is. You're thinking, yeah, there is something wrong with you, Nathan. You're egocentric. You're egomaniac, you're self-absorbed, you talk instead of ask questions, so you talk at people instead of asking questions from people. But it was good to know, okay, all that being said, okay, not coming against any of that. All that being said, it's good to hear somebody else say that asking questions and getting out of your own little headspace and entering into somebody else's world through the key of asking the questions and opening the door is actually a discipline. Now, I have met people that are either so focused on the other, or so hospitable, or so caring, or so not egotistical that they seem like they genuinely just love to ask other people questions. And it gave me hope that maybe this is a learned discipline for more people than just me. Now, hopefully you can't relate to that. Hopefully you're thinking, Nathan, just lecture me, you egocentric egomaniac. I always ask everybody else questions. I always am more focused on the other people instead of myself. But just in case I'm not the only one, okay, we're going to unlock some doors here today. And I'm going to break down a little bit of this book, because the reason, and you're thinking, Nathan, you were going through the 15 invaluable laws of growth. Well, I still am, okay? I still am, but I had a great conversation, actually, that may have started with a question the other day at my friends over at 1313 Innovation, which is one of Wilmington's primary co-working facilities. It's right there in the Hercules building. It's a great center, and I got to give a shout out to my friend Lauren Spinelli, because she had, a little backstory, she had done something to really help other people like me that are promoting big events, maybe not as big as TEDx and maybe not quite as branded as that, but other people that are doing noteworthy things. And so Lauren, who manages 1313 Innovation, has been curating, and this is something that's open to you if you're local, curating a meetup every week between people that are doing noteworthy things, where we can learn how to pitch the press, which is one of the most important skills that you can learn. Now, I don't care if you have the greatest salesmanship ability. I don't care if you're not afraid to go cold calling, door to door. I don't care if you have that skill set, and that's a great skill set to have, okay? So if you have that skill set, and I'm developing that skill set every few years, I do that, and that's a great discipline to have. But it's even more impactful and effective in kind of the white collar world, where you want to not push your advertising on people, but instead you want them to pull the content that they want from you out of you through your brand and through press releases and things like that. It's hugely beneficial. So she set up this meeting every week between people like me and people who are in the media, and they've already started publishing some of the press releases that I pitched to them, which is great. I mean, for one, you might have seen locally that we have 4 top 100 semifinalists for the John Maxwell Transformational Leadership Award, not just in the Mid-Atlantic region, okay, not just in this whole state of Delaware, which is huge because Delaware has more chickens than people. I mean, we don't even have 1 million people. We have 4 in the state of Delaware. What could be even better than that? Well, they're all 4 of these people live in the same city of Wilmington. 4 people. Now, that's huge. I mean, the city of Wilmington is only about 70,000 people live in the city of Wilmington. So how could you have 4% of all of the semifinalists for this prestigious award that is also open not just to the United States, but also Canada? Okay, and we've got 4 of the top 100 people right here in Wilmington, a city of 70,000. It is absolutely remarkable, yet I'm going door to door about a month ago when this whole thing came out, and I'm sweating up a storm. I look like a sweaty grease pig. I mean, I'm just looking disgusting. And I'm trying to get the word out, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't get the word out a month ago, but I learned how to submit a press release and make the right connection a week ago, and it comes out. So it's actually, and technically, maybe I will post the link, or if you're watching this right now, you can actually look up and find that link. It's a recent article, and you could post it in the comments and beat me to it. So anyway, that was a little bit of a bunny trail, but anyway, so Lauren was talking with me, and we were just kind of, nothing set in stone and nothing is official, but we're thinking about bringing some additional curated content for the startup community that was located right there in 1313. And one of the key things is how to ask good questions. So how the heck do we do it, Nathan? How do we ask great questions? Well, I'm glad you asked, and I'm going to dig into this because it was just so valuable. And I want to give you 3 key questions that you can ask yourself, and this actually tracks right along with what my mentor, John Maxwell, the #1 leadership voice in the history of the world in terms of the quantity of the books that he's written. This guy's written twice as much leadership content, word for word, as anybody else in history, as determined by his publisher. He's a good person to start locking in and listening to. You may have other more academic leadership people that you listen to on the podcast, or you read the books, or you may have other people that are great best-selling authors as well in the leadership space. I would suggest you want to also include John Maxwell in there because he's written over 100 books. And the beautiful thing about John Maxwell's books and his writing is it's very simple. It's very accessible, and especially if you're not in academia, especially if you're in the real world, and especially if you're dealing with people that don't like fancy language. Something that I had to train myself that took a long time to do is actually I used to talk using much higher words than the people that were listening to me, which is really, really bad. Actually, I still do that. So it's actually really hard to speak in personable, simple language, but John Maxwell does that. So if you're dealing with real people, if you're dealing from the middle, if you're dealing from the bottom, okay, if you're leading from the middle, leading from the bottom, Maxwell's a good guy to have because you're not going to run into that problem with John Maxwell's stuff where people feel like you're talking down to them or teaching above their heads. People don't like that. People like, instead of you tooting your own horn and talking about your successes, they actually like, as I'm modeling in this video, when you talk about your mistakes, like when you're sitting next to an accomplished TEDx speaker and waste much of that conversation because you're not on a quest to discover more about that person and unlock the treasure inside. So anyway, so this book is really fascinating. It's very different from any other book that John has ever written. And he talks about the value of questions that you ask. And some of those questions, the value is that you gain awareness. I mean, you become aware of all kinds of possibilities that you didn't know about before. You become friends with other people, most likely. You can gain that rapport that leads to friendship. You have an established connection. You gain a greater perspective because when you're asking a question, you're not going to be in your own little echo chamber. Okay, like you see these two ears, you see this ear right here, and you see this ear right here. Okay, what you're actually seeing right here, this is just an echo chamber. So I've got little ideas bouncing around on the inside of my head. I know it looks absolutely ridiculous, which is why I'm doing this. My head is an echo chamber because I have not mastered the discipline of asking enough questions of other worthwhile people, okay? And if you haven't done it either, your head is an echo chamber too, which isn't good. So you want to gain that perspective and that diversity of thought that happens when you have a thinking partner, not even about your stuff, but when you're just discovering their world and learning how to develop greater empathy, okay? So those are some of the valuable benefits that you get when you start learning the discipline and practicing the discipline of asking questions. So I want to start us out today, okay, and I'm going to start us out, and I'm probably going to end us out too, so don't worry about this. But I want to give you 3 questions that John Maxwell started asking himself that began to transform his life. And the reason I'm only asking the first 3 of these questions, there's a much longer list. I think it may be closer to 10. I'm only going to give you 3. And why is that? Because these 3 questions are going to be very similar to you in your stage of life. You may not be a best-selling author. You may not be the head of a giant organization. You may not have the same trajectory. I certainly don't have the same trajectory as John Maxwell. But I tell you what, these 3 questions, getting the answers to these 3 fundamental questions in life is going to unlock your future. Okay, they're going to speak to some unique human needs that we all have. Okay, and whatever your faith tradition, and whether you're an agnostic or a atheist or you have some kind of a faith or some kind of persuasion, really doesn't matter. We need answers. We need to have meaning. We need to find the meaning of life. And some of these questions are going to set you on that path. So what are the 3 questions, Nathan? You're saying, hey, Nathan, get to the point. What are the 3 questions? Well, here's the first one, okay? So these are some life-changing questions that he asked of other people to change his life. I think I'm going to need some water here in a minute. We're going to soldier on here. Okay? John Maxwell asked these 3 questions and more, started changing his life, okay? So this is a question that he asked his mother, okay? Now, you may not have access to be able to ask your mother. I believe you can ask the universe this question. You can ask God this question. You can ask other people that you are in community with this question. But he said, Mom, how much do you love me? Mom, how much do you love me? Now, this is a security question. We ask that question because we all, as human beings, need to be loved. Now, I'm thinking right now, my friend and TEDx alumni, Tony Salimi, shout out to you, Tony, because he brought out he was talking about artificial intelligence. He brought out a person dressed up as a cyborg to illustrate this fact. And then at one point in his presentation, which you will be able to watch in a couple of weeks when I get the footage from Matt and upload it, he brought a picture of this beautiful animatron or cyborg who was very shaped like a woman and looked like a woman. It wasn't a woman because it wasn't a human being, but it was very fascinating because this little cyborg was there to design to try to meet the needs of our loneliness and try to meet the needs of our love. Now, interesting to see if they can simulate this enough to make it work. but it was interesting that that dovetailed into Tony's presentation. And part of his presentation was a giant question in and of itself. He said, we've got this capacity for the artificial intelligence to outthink us very quickly, to outpace us, to become more intelligent than we are. And some people are saying great things, and some people are thinking, man, this might not be a good thing. And that was his presentation. So anyway, John Maxwell asked his mother, because his mother, he asked this when he was a child, and John Maxwell was privileged to be able to have a very strong, supportive, loving home, as I did. So he asked his mom, hey, Mom, how much do you love me? Now, you may not be in that situation. You may not have access to your mother, or you may not have a safe, loving relationship with your mother in the same way, or you may just not have the best relationship with your mother, or you might not have had the best relationship with your mother. What I would encourage you to do is personalize this. Find the person in your life that you are the closest to. If it's, your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, or if it's someone that's very close, a very strong friendship that you have, you can ask that person this question, okay? Even a faith leader or somebody that you know from maybe a faith community, or you can ask directly to God or the universe this question: how much do you love me? I mean, there are many people that are very spiritually aware, and they will open themselves up and just ask that question of the higher power. I know that my favorite book says that when you draw near to God, he's going to draw near to you. So you can ask that question, and it's really important. Why is that question so important? Well, it's because everything that we do as human beings is going to come out of a source, and the greatest source is love. My friend and my mentor, Paul Martinelli, says that is the highest frequency, and I would have to agree, because my favorite book says that the greatest of all of these things, faith, hope, and love, the greatest of all of these things is actually love. It's not even sacrificial deeds of sacrifice, because if you do those deeds of sacrifice without love and tenderness and compassion in your heart, my favorite book said it's not worth anything at all, which is pretty controversial statement, actually. So that is the first question that John Maxwell asked that I believe that you should ask, that I'm asking all the time, because it provides security. It provides a foundation, and it provides momentum for everything else that we do. Second question that John Maxwell asked that I believe that we should ask, and I should ask, and you should ask as well. Okay? We're going to, having said that, looking at the question, we're going to sidestep it a little bit, because not everybody wants to be married, okay? Not everybody needs to be married. Not everybody is called to be married. I'm looking at you, Catholics. Okay. All right. I'm looking at some of the Catholics out there. Like, I believe there is a gift of singleness, and I had that gift for too many years. Not meaning to poke too much fun at that. It was the gift that I was trying to give away. It's kind of like musical chairs a little bit. So he asked his wife Margaret one day, Margaret, will you marry me? And you know what? I was really privileged about 10 years this coming winter, this coming holiday season. It will be 10 years since I asked Angela to marry me, because we've been married now for over 8 years. And so it would have been 10 years. No, it would have been 9 years. Excuse me, 9 years, okay, since I did that. Yeah, we got married after the proposal about 6 months after, which was a good thing to do. But here's what makes it about you. You may not want to marry anybody, or maybe you're already married, so you don't want to ask another person, because it's still in this country. Can you believe in this country that's still against the law? Being a little tongue-in-cheek here. Don't hate on me. But yeah, so if you're already married, don't ask somebody else to marry you. It is not legal, and this is not the time or the place to enter into that debate, okay? But here's what the question is all about, right? Here's what the question is all about. It's really about partnership. It's not about romance, okay? The way that I'm going to broaden this, it's about life partnership, okay? Not all marriages last, okay? In the world that we live in, for a variety of reasons, and Sometimes people are bereaved. Sometimes people make other choices. Sometimes things just don't go well. So not everything lasts. But my point is, look for partnership on what you're doing. Whatever your life mission is, you don't have to necessarily have a romantic partnership, but look for that partnership with other people that want to make a difference, doing something that makes a difference at a time when it makes a difference, doing something that is going to make a difference. You want to find partners, okay? And it's not against the law, and you don't have to get married to those people just to be able to partner up, okay? That would be good, because that would not be good. It is good that you don't have to do that, because that's what I'm doing all day long. I'm looking as a John Maxwell team person. We're getting ready to not just do a Live to Lead simulcast for the business community. We're getting ready to do another global Youth Max event. We're getting ready to do it. We're going to impact more than 100,000 kids worldwide with an anti-bullying message this October. So we're getting ready to do it all over again. And I'm looking for people to partner with, and I don't want to have to get married to all kinds of different people that just want to impact kids. I mean, that would be a little silly. So it's a question of partnership rather than romantic marriage. And here's the third one, okay? And again, I'm gonna tease this out a little bit, because John comes from the faith community and the faith career world. So he was a Protestant pastor. He wasn't even a Catholic priest. He was a Protestant pastor, so his world was building not just a community like I'm doing, and we're doing together. Many of you watching this, you come to my monthly Lead Well that we do. It really doesn't just belong to me. It's all of us. We've been doing it at the library, and we've got a nice, strong community now. And he was doing that as a church planter and a leader in the faith world. So he was all about building a bigger church. So John Maxwell's third question that I'm going to broaden into a question that you should ask. His question is, Pastor, how did you grow and build this great church? How did you build a great church? Now, this is a growth question. This is a career and professional growth question. This is an impact question, okay? So you're probably not in the faith community. I'm certainly not in that profession. I don't have a theology degree. I'm not into that part of the world, and very likely neither are you, okay? It might be a few of you watching this that are, but instead of saying, Pastor, how do you grow a great church? Well, let's ask, what are you trying to do? What impact are you trying to make? And especially if you're a author or a teacher or a trainer or a coach or somebody that has a life message, like a story I'll share that may be a little bit of bunny trail. I could have reframed it earlier today, but so many things were happening. But a fun thing happening, my friend Greg, who I just met maybe a week ago at Starbucks, who is a economics teacher, high school economics teacher, and he is a gangsta rapper, okay? And he has combined those two worlds, okay? So he does gangsta economics rap. And economics is all about human behavior. It's a fascinating study. And he is kind of the Weird Al Yankovic of gangsta economics rap, and he's starting to really get some notoriety for that. So using my friend Greg as an example, instead of asking, hey, Pastor, how do you build a great church? It might be, hey, whoever someone like that is following, hey, John Maxwell, how did you build such a large tribe? How did you build a team, John Maxwell, of 15,000 Nathans out there who are certified coaches, trainers, and speakers on your team, who have gone down, many of them, to Guatemala with you, have gone over to Paraguay with you, many of them. They're going to Costa Rica. It's just amazing the impact that we're having. How did you grow such a large team that is changing and transforming the world? So somebody like my friend Greg, who is building his own impact, I mean, it is fascinating because he can hit the kids, he can hit the teachers, academia, the bureaucrats, in the administration world of secondary and primary education. It's just amazing. But you need to find somebody in the line of work that can be a little bit of a mentor to you, just like the backstory. I won't go into it. That's exactly what John Maxwell did. And he said, how did you build a great tribe and a great impact? So I've got news for you. I mean, this is a little unpleasant, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news. If you are in a traditional working environment with a little bit of a retirement and a pension and a nice little clear-cut path, but I hate to break the news to you, but there are very, very few jobs like that even exist anymore, and the ones that are around, they're about to be disrupted by artificial intelligence. If you're in retail, oh my gosh, God help you, and He will. But we can help ourselves by learning how to grow and learning how to ask these great questions so that we don't become the kind of person, not the kind of there are three kinds of people. We want to be the kind of people that are already moving on and making things happen. And then there are those people that watch things happen, and we want to be the first kind. We really don't want to be the third kind of person, and those are the people that are wondering what's happening, or they wondered what just happened. So their awareness is so low that all of a sudden all the traditional jobs went away, and they're collecting unemployment, and they're wondering what happened. Now, again, I'm being really, really, really candid and probably harsh. I'm probably beyond candor. I'm probably meddling right now. But don't be the kind of person that watches the thing happen. Don't be the kind of person that wonders what happened. Be the kind of person that takes action. My point is, build your community, build your tribe, build your impact. Okay? Don't just go knocking around door to door for today's impact, but build a legacy for other people. That's what I'm doing right now. I am today starting. I guess I'll go on the record. I'll go on the record because I need to. I am putting together my basement video studio today. I've been procrastinating. I even have the materials that I need to set up a real simple, basic, temporary studio in my basement. I just haven't done it. So I'm going to do it today because I'm putting myself on the line. So anyway, I hope those three key questions unlock your future, that you use those questions to start asking the right questions that you need to ask in your life, and I'm going to be using it in my life for sure. And it's really, really critical that we ask these questions. Quick review, and this is the significance question and the stability question and the security question. How much do you love me? So ask the person in your life that's closest to you, or even ask the universe, ask God, how much do you love me? How much am I loved? That's going to give you a foundation and energy and a motivation to make a big impact. Second one is the partnership question. So you don't have to ask somebody, will you marry me? But it's the question of, will you partner with me to make a difference? Casting the vision just like you do when you make a marriage proposal, okay? You get that ring ready. If you have the ability to talk to the father-in-law, you go and you fly down secretly to Atlanta and spook out your future parents, spook out your future in-laws, because you finally make it an hour out of town right after it gets dark and they've already turned in for the light. So you do what I did and spook them out, knock on their door after night falls, okay? You ask, hey, can I partner with your daughter? Or can I partner with you to make a difference? Okay, it's a partnership question because two are better than one. Okay, third thing that you want to ask. Okay, the third question is going to unlock the foundation for your future is the growth question. How did you build such a great community? In John Maxwell's world of faith, pastor, how did you build a great church? But in our world of just impact and influence and leading from the middle, it might be, hey, how can we make a difference? How can we make a great impact in this department? And how can I make a great impact in this industry? How can maybe I publish some papers outside of my normal day job? How could I speak at a conference outside my normal day job so that I'm an entrepreneur and making a difference so that I always have a waiting list of people that want me to work for them. Okay, even though those jobs are harder to come by, you can, if you're gifted as an entrepreneur, you can do those things. All right, so I hope this added value to all of you today. Oh my gosh, this was a longer Facebook Live, and I thank all of you for hanging on this live and joining me, because I really do want to make a difference with other people that are making a difference. Join us the second Thursday, if you're local, for Lead Well at the Wilmington Public Library at 3:30. You can register. You can go to my cover photo, and in the comments is actually a link for you to register to the current next thing. No matter when you're watching this, I'm going to start using the cover as a landing page and updating and changing the link to register, which is absolutely huge. Maybe you're watching this and you say, Nathan, I would send my team to you, but I'd rather have you come to me because we are losing market share, or we're gaining ground, but we need to go from great to amazing. That's what I do all day long. I do a number of simple team building, coaching, training. I have an assessment that doubles as a fun game that we play. And that's what I'm doing all day long, is helping organizations just like the ones that you know, the ones that you are in, or maybe even the ones that you manage or lead. And we're here to make a difference. And we're here not just for me to fly all over the world to these different continents and impacting people, but it's really all about bringing it back here to Wilmington, Delaware, so that we can make a difference wherever you work and the teams that you serve with. I mean, life is too short not to really enjoy working with your team, correct? Life is too short not to up-level your social equity and your social currency with the people that are on your board of directors, on your team, on your management staff, on your front line. So let's partner and let's make a difference together. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining me today.